So I was born in Lagos. I grew up in Ejigo, in the during the Civil War, which is called Nigerian Biafra War. So at that time, my father died when I was 2 months pregnancy. So I never met him. So growing up with that, I grew up with my grandfather who was Muslim. So he sent me to Quranic school. So in a way, I was trained from the Arab culture and the Western culture. So I grew up with this culture, and that become really conflict to me as a person. So sometimes in 1982, I begin to have a kind of feelings of inferior person towards this other culture, especially the Arab, because in the Arab culture, you were made to understand that Arab is the only language that God spoke, and that is the only language you have to learn for you to speak with God, with Allah in God. So that made me to begin to question. And going to the Quranic school, I became like an half-baked scholar in a way. But when I go into the university, that was when the feelings of this inferiority become more intense in me, and I become like kind of a rebel. But at the end, that is a kind of a long story. I don't want to go into that. Iriri is a kind of Yoruba word which loosely translates to mean the experiences of the world. What are the world experience? What I've just told you what my own personal experience coming from colonial background and was trained in that concept of coloniality, that you have to be what they want you to be. You don't have to be yours, but you have to be theirs. I trying to like ask myself a lot of questions. Am I human? Because in a human being we have to talk. In a human being we have to express yourself. So most of the time I go to ask myself, am I really a human being? Borrowing heavily from a lot of experiences. Recently, Femi Odugbemi, who is a filmmaker in Nigeria, posted on Facebook, and he said, when art learns, it learns its voices, it learns clarity, it learns insight, it learns perspective. Art matters. So that is the philosophy that has been guiding me. Does art matters? Does I matter? I begin to look at my work, and I see that I consciously go back into pick an influence from the Yoruba, and that is my identity, who really I am. Then the issue of decolonization comes forward, because at every moment in our life at the present, we are being colonized. We have a lot of imagery that come from the internet, from everywhere, that colonize our thinking process. And most of the time, I try to decolonize myself from a lot of information. And I work as a collaborator with a lot of things, with the world, with imagery that the world has produced, with imagery that my civilizations, indigenous civilizations has produced. I use these values without colonizing it, without trying to condition it into the way I want it to be. And most of the time, I work with memory, the memory of the world, the archival memory of my body, and the archival memory of my environment. And lastly, I try to be political. The political, because I understand that as a contemporary person, politics determine what it is, and that become more relevant to me. And human rights issue, justice, become really the bottom of whatever anything I do. So to let you understand how I work, I will cite examples of some of the works that I've done that can make you to understand me more deeper. Now, what is the concern of the world right now? It is a pandemic. I traveled last year to Germany and to India. When I came back to Lagos, I was shot in Lagos. I couldn't move. And suddenly there is this panic about the society being dangerous, about the relationship being dangerous, about having a contact with people being dangerous. And this become really giving kind of attention and traumatize my body, because as an artist, as a performance artist, my body and the society, the people are really important to me. Suddenly, I become really empty. I can do nothing. So I have to go back. How do indigenous Yoruba people heal the body. And I was supposed to participate in a festival in Afro Vibes Festival in Netherlands, and I couldn't move. So, and I have to be human, like I said earlier, it's constantly for me to be human, to express myself, to contribute to the dialogue of the world. So I have to create series of performances, almost about 14 of them, into a short film that reference the COVID-19 pandemic that has started heavy tolls on the whole world, and about trying to x-ray how do Yoruba heal the body, because suddenly the science has failed us, and suddenly the whole world are looking into outside world for healing without thinking about themselves. How can we heal ourselves before the other person? But so this film that I created that I titled Elaboru, I went through rituals, the regular rituals of healing, of energize my body that can fight against any kind of external diseases that will come. And that make me to be strong. I put my body, which is the ephemeral action and ephemeral sacred processes that people can also see. And you can also see in this performance, which I did in 2012, just to increase the fuel price of fuel, of gas, and the world country got into protest. So I decided to use the sacred mystical body, replicate the music body by replacing it into a different voices of people, like a placard. In there, I borrowed the image from our ancestral body. In this performance, which I titled Senator Yerima Wedding, in 2013, there was a debate in the National Assembly of my country about the marriage age of a girl, and they were trying to propose to the country that a girl can get married at the age of 13. To me, I find it really ridiculous. In the marriage ceremony, I was carrying her in a cage, moving in the streets, and going through in the public space. And while I go in the public space, people were following me. It was like a marriage ceremony. If Nigeria is bad in about infrastructural decaying, and our senators, our political leader, were debating about having sex with a young girl, to me, it's ridiculous. So I put up that performance for people to understand when they want to contribute to the dialogue that was prevailing at that time. That I was trying to use the performance to instigate kind of people to react, in a very drastic way against the political leaders that do not. I created this campaign declaring myself as a presidential candidate in Nigeria. And in creating myself as a president, I have 10 manifestos which all the ruling party and the opposition party cannot necessarily dwell into, and which is they shied away from. So creating that was for me to enlighten Nigerians on the need to question the manifesto of the political organizations that we have in Nigeria that are pretending that they were ruling us and they want to like they are Messiah. So having this was having create series of events. I created a posters which are posted everywhere, and also hold political campaign. And this is one of the campaign that I do. People ask me a lot of questions, and they actually believe that I was actually a presidential campaign. I mean, a presidential candidate. And actually told them that if the government permits, I will actually declare myself as an independent candidate. And unfortunately, as we go for the election in 2019, the president of the country did not assent to electoral reform bill, and become really painful to me and to the nation at that time. So this performance, like you're saying, is titled Aragamago will rid this land of terrorism. Unfortunately, after this performance, I was arrested. I went to jail. I went to judiciary prosecution for that lasted for 6 months. Well, at the end of it all, the case was thrown out, but it was really traumatizing moment for me. Going to jail for about a week, and after facing myself from not going to almost about 49 in prison was actually really traumatic moment for me. What was influenced to this performance was an incident that happened in my own state, hometown, Ejigbo here, where 3 ladies were talk shop, were sexually harassed, and I'm sorry to say this, they were tortured to the state that they prepare pepper and insert them inside the pepper with gin, hot wine mixed with pepper inside in their vagina. Was to me was really terrible, and this was one of the actions that was influenced by the terrorist action of the king of the community. So I did a performance where I assembled sacred objects that address the king. So the king couldn't stomach it. He lied to the police. We were arrested and we sent to jail. So, but to me, it is a way to let the world know that art as an instrument, of a political instrument, is so important. And my function is actually to sensitize the public about the most important things, which is our concern for our growth, for our well-being. And the performance, you will see that I created what I call flyers of prayers. And in that prayers, I was talking to our ancestors and said, whoever partake in domestic terrorism that have created pains in the community, may our ancestors end the life. That is what we're seeing in the flying. So that become really an interesting moment for the whole world to understand. And it was a celebrated performance because I went to jail. It was a kind of situation where art and society were at war. And that performance proved that art will always be in prevailing. I challenge history. I challenge colonial history. And one of it was to question the issue of blackness. And in this performance, I traced the issue of the most of the problem we're having, starting from the slavery to the Berlin Conference, to Berlin Conference, where Africa were divided into artificial units that are not in harmony with themselves. And in that, I created a performance that I called Allah Akbar, where the issue of blackness become the center point. The black body has carried this energy of torture, this energy of pains, this energy of colonialism, and the energy, but of course we are strong. The word black itself is a color of a shoe in Yoruba, and is the strongest energy of the world. So black body as an entity move all over the world with this struggle, with these pains of humanity, because you will remember that humanity itself starts from Africa. And as such, we are the homeland. And in the homeland, we carry that ancestral energy. And so in this performance, using the word Allah Akbar, which is the cause of the ancestors, my performances in a way has been challenging and reflecting of human experiences and human attitude. So one of it is this performances I titled In the Red, and it is for me to reflect on our tendencies to destruction, our tendencies to split the world. And I also talk about the issues that are prevailing to us. In this performance, which I titled Festino di Tela, which is talking about the essence of the festivity of green, the festivity of nature. And when nature moves from one place to another, it does not have any barrier. It's above restriction. So the issue of migration has become really core part of my performances, and you can see in this which here, and I also talk about the memory loss and how when you move from one place to another, most of the things that are core essence to our existence tend to be diminishing, and we tend to forget about that. I challenge the issue of leadership, and in this performance, which I call title Ologbere, the one in the left and the one in the right, is are actually challenging the issue of leadership. So the performance was used to challenge the issue of what it's all about leadership. Well, here I'm just going to ramp it up. In 2016, I went to Israel Museum in Jerusalem when I saw a lot of sculptural piece, sacred objects from Africa, from another world, there in that museum. To me, it become like a kind of a shocking thing to me. And it's also opened up kind of a discussion about the movement of culture around the world and how the Western world has caged most of this civilization and kept it within themselves. And how Africans, for example, have been removed from this civilization, and the modern African people don't understand these essences. And at the time, I saw a lot of sculptural piece there. And this visit influenced me when I think about the discussion about the US electoral campaign in 2016. And there was a kind of discussion about the essences of the humanity. And that was a symbolic campaign between Trump and Hillary Clinton. And Trump was representing the masculine, while Hillary was representing the feminism. And in a way, the masculine were ridiculing the feminism. And I felt that ridiculing the feminine energy was a problematic to me or to the world. And it would bring problem to us. Because feminism or feminine energy is the core energy of the humanity. It's the opening that brings all of us. And ridiculing it to me is an embarrassment. In 2018, I confronted Trump fascism, because to me, USA is a kind of a center of the world, because it's a powerful country. That whatever anything that happened in that country, it's spread all over to the whole world. So in 2018, I was in the US when Trump made that statement of African, especially Nigeria, living in a shithole. And to me, I saw it as embarrassment, but not really an embarrassment, but it's a kind of a symbolical signal of the issue of fascism of the world, the white supremacy. So which I confronted in 2018 with a lot of performances there. Well, as an artist, I do paintings too, but I paint my body to bring in the psychological of color, because color itself has a lot of influence on the mind, and performance uses the mind and the brain of the beholder, and which is the audience. When the audience have a contact through the eye contact, the brain interpreted it and it turned into imagery. And that is why I paint my body in most of the time.
I have a question. What's your process like? So when you go from conceptualizing what you want to see, so how do you then go from idea to performance?
I start most of my processes, first of all, from the context. In the context, I must understand deeply the history behind the context, everything that are surrounding, the political influences, the colonialism issue of it, everything about our context. Then I begin to go into what is the forms that I want to use, what is the society, which space am I using, what is the city that I'm going to present the performance, and above all, I must align my body into that. So if I align my body, then I open myself, be free with my thinking, that begin to make a lot of research, then begin to understand the imagery or object that I want to use as a collaboration. the actions that I'll put into that. So that is the process I go through most of the time.
I just wanted to ask you, how was your art affected by last year, by 2020, and all the Black Lives Matter movements and the civil rights matters that are happening all over the world? I wanted to know, I suppose, how that affected your art.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. If you have studied the trajectory of my performances and what I do, you will see the boldness that I have been trying to project, the issue of the life of the Black body matters. And that is the main reason why I consciously, you remember in the beginning I said, language, vocabulary to us as a Black body is a point of energy, not just like the Western world that thinks that vocabulary is about description. To us, it's about energy. The energy you pass through, the energy you transmit. And my performances has been, projecting that. And that was why I chose the Alagba, which I started in 2014, before the movement of Black Matters, Black Lives Matters become really popular. And that's to let you understand that as an artist, I have been bold to tell the whole world that as an artist, the first thing that comes into it is my body. Because my body is involved, my life matters in it. And my life will matter because I, from the Black generation, I am an African. They give me that name. They said this was Africa. I am a Black body. But for them, they don't understand the issue about the Black. The Black is the word of issue. And that is the strongest energy, according to the Yoruba, the strongest energy of the world. And my performances have been projecting that.
A lot of your art involves other people in your community. Like, it's like every time that you've felt or thought something, you've gone into that performative art where you've had those people around you. I had two questions. First one is, why do you think you choose to express yourself in that way in particular? And what do you think you give to your community by creating art in that manner?
Yeah, thank you so much. My ancestral body had made me to understand that we are community-based people where we cannot be an islander. So our connectivity between one body or the other, my ancestors make me understand that is the collectivism, mopping up of energy that propel us into moving forward. And so in my performance, the people become elements because my performance is a point of dialogue, is to create dialogue. And the dialogue cannot be for me alone. It is for the people around me. Without them, my performance is nothing.
You mentioned about Black meaning powerful, mainly from Yoruba, which is where you're from. But it's just because I've got totally different opinion on that. I think it's another word brought out by the colonial masters to refer to us. This is not a word we picked ourselves. So part of this, I was going to mention that. I wanted to know more on it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Is a very, very, very deep question. But you permit me to a little bit digress by trying to give us our own experience in the Yoruba here. During colonialism, when the Western want to kill our being, want to destroy us, because the African person, African society, life centered in the spirituality. And that is our whole life revolving around that. During the colonialism, when they wanted to destroy the Yoruba people, Ajayi Crowther was one of the persons that used to interpret Yoruba into English. And he was the one who designed by referencing the British letter, using the British letter to write Yoruba. And when they want to interpret or translate the Bible, they were actually looking for two words, the devil and the Jesus Christ, which is the Savior. In the word Jesus Christ, he just used Yoruba to pronounce it by saying Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. But when it comes to devil, which is the Satan, instead of saying Satani, he decided to use a shoe, right? So by using a shoe, it has destroyed an issue. Like I said, is the highest energy of the Yoruba pantheon, the highest forces that the hierarchy of that power. The issue is the highest power, and by using the word issue to mean Satan, it destroyed the religion to mean satanic religion. But that does not necessarily mean that because they use the word issue, that is the Satan, right? So now go back to that. Because these colonial people studied us, they understand us, they studied our psychic, our religion, our powers. They also know the essences of what we are, right? So because they have studied us for several centuries and know that using vocabulary that will diminish in us, and in using vocabulary, they will be ridiculing our own essences. So if they use the word black, doesn't mean that by using that black, it means negativity. It's because they want you to believe that it is negativity. But I'm telling you from the perspective of the indigenous body people of the Yoruba, the word black itself means that's the inner strength.
Jelili, thank you for that powerful presentation of your work. I just had a question. I know you say that art opens up dialogue and conversations. Do you think it's possible to obtain knowledge from art?
Of course, it is. What we are discussing now is obtaining knowledge on art. It's very simple. But it is start from the issue of questioning. Let's question people. Let's question a lot of things. Like for example, when you look at this mask up there, that was used in ancient time. Each of things you see there are not just there for decoration's sake. Our artwork from the ancient are not decorative. They are symbolical signs of meanings that is coded. They are coding it. So by the time you ask question, you are obtaining knowledge of it. Look, this thing you just do right now, questioning me, you are obtaining knowledge from my practice. If you engage me in each of my performances, I will tell you the symbolic meaning of every action, every space, every costumes, every color, everything. Even the people who are there, even the title of the performance, I will tell you by questioning. And that's exactly who we are, because we question the nature. And that's why Yoruba understand that they can put two leaves together and that become magical. And they can use three things and that become magical. They can even use your footprints. If you step on something, they can go there, the print, and they use something. It's a knowledge because they question nature. And they also question that our body, need to be examined. So they understand that my voice is linked to Olubong, which is the prince of the sound. Because they question. So you question everything, you obtain the knowledge. Question everything. Ask question. Ask me, why do you have red in my body when I perform? Ask me, why do you have white? Then I would link you up to, if I put that white, I'm referencing Obatala, the prince of whiteness. And how does it come into the whiteness? Well, because there's a vacuum that is empty and it's just white. So, and the white is that energy also that complement the blackness. Yoruba will tell you that. So these are civilizations that's hidden. So in the hidden things, and that's why you are there as a student, you are research. That means you are re-researching idea. So it's research is questioning civilization, questioning idea that is there before. So if you question, you will obtain knowledge of art, of course. And because, like I told you, you have the DNA of it. It is deep in you. So if it's deep in you, you only need to activate it. So when you activate it, it's going to be flowing. You're going to be seeing directions that come like magic. But that's sacred.